Okay, so continuing along, we're going to go right into order processing now. In order processing, there are under order processing and shipping, there are several options in here. We're going to go through all of them. So we're going to go to entering an order from scratch. Okay, so clicking on entering an order from scratch, typically a screen will come up like this and allow us to create a new screen. Try not to run your screens full screen like this. If you do, you might have something open behind and you don't know it's there, and it can cause problems. So always have it at least where you can see some of the background. You can make it bigger, and like I was explaining earlier about the 19-inch monitor, if you have a 19-inch monitor, you can have a box here, you can have a box over here, box over here, box over there. You have boxes everywhere. I'm going to actually move mine over here because there's a couple things that I'm going to show you along with this. We're going to start off, what is with this mouse? We're going to start off with just entering a simple order. So I'm going to click on the little plus sign here. It's going to ask me, do I want to enter a new order? Our screens are called modal screens. Modal screens mean they are multi-use. You do multiple functions from the same screen. So, and I'll explain that in a minute. As I say yes to this, if I drop this down, you can see the same screen. I can do a credit memo, a back order, a quote. I can delete the order, or I can do a sales return. Okay? So right now we're doing an actual order, and down here is where I would put the customer. This example that we're going to use today is going to be an existing customer. So I'm going to come over here and locate a customer by hitting my magnifying glass. Now if I want, I can also type in the first couple letters of the customer name. Let's say it starts with STR. By typing STR, I can either use my mouse and hit the magnifier, or as you notice, the little window opens up and says F2 gives me my lookup key. So if I hit F2, it'll automatically pop up everything that starts with ST. So let's say it's this one here, and we hit select. It's going to automatically, this system is an accounting system. If there's something wrong with the information, it is not going to let you continue until you fix it. So once I hit OK to this, it's going to actually show me what the problem is in red. Well, I don't see anything in red on this tab. So what you want to do is go to each tab until you find, oh, there's a red. So this is telling me that the sales rep is invalid for this customer. Who is the rep for this customer?
House.
So HOU. And what terms do they were a COD account, and now you don't have COD set up. Do you do COD?
No.
So credit card?
Credit card.
Credit card.
Prepaid. Prepaid with check.
Credit card.
Yeah, credit card's always better. Okay, well that solved that problem. Now coming back to this screen, there's a lot of data on this screen. Number one is you have your order date up here. That's going to automatically populate. This is the date the customer wants you to begin shipping. A lot of times you'll get a department store that says you can ship from this date to this date, but not before and not after. That's called a ship date or a promise date, and that's what would go here, your begin ship date. If the customer says you can't ship after a date, you would fill in the cancel date. Otherwise, leave it blank. The release date is once you run the inventory allocation, which we'll get into later. This will automatically populate as soon as you run the allocation with the date that you ran it or allocated this order. Let's continue. Lead source. Right now you've only got rep in there, but I highly recommend that you track where your orders are coming from, because right now it's all conjecture as to whether or not the Dallas show was a good show for you, or Atlanta, or Wyoming. Who knows? You'd want to fill that in so that we can track where did the order come from, so that we can analyze where our advertising dollar is best spent. Does that make sense?
Yes.
The other thing we want to use this for is, and I'm a big proponent of this, and as you guys are developing your rep contracts, this is something you're going to want to fill into your rep contract, that if a customer comes direct to us after three times in a row, after being established by the rep, that account reverts to house account. Because if a customer is coming directly to you, what's that telling you?
Nothing happening.
That's right. The rep is not coming out there. And what's the purpose for the rep? The purpose for the rep is to be out there and show your line. Not just pick up an order, but to show what's new. And if they're not servicing the account, why are you paying them 15 or 20% or whatever your percentage is? So that's why we want to put that in there. We definitely would want some sort of a customer direct or rep direct field. So I would put CDR, which is customer direct. And as you notice, it said jump and add. I would also put in here RDR, and notice that it'll automatically say it's not in there. It'll say, do you want to jump and add? Saying yes, the add window pops up, rep direct, which means that the rep sent it in directly to you. The reason you do that, because remember, the rep is still going to be assigned. When we get to tab 2, you'll see that the rep is already assigned. But it might also come from a rep showroom. He might be doing a show at, like the Minneapolis show, he has a showroom there. You're going to want to know that. Maybe you won't. I'm just recommending. My job is to show you how the software works and how to use all of the functionality in it. What you decide to use or decide not to use is up to you, of course. Right here is where you would put the customer's purchase order number if the customer gives you a purchase order number. If they don't, leave it blank. There's no need to fill anything in. FOB we don't use anymore. So what I have developed is if you cancel an order, I like to write the word cancel in the FOB, and then I like to invoice the order at 0 shipped so that when the rep's commission comes out, that shows up as a canceled order. And there's no calling, what happened to this order? How come you didn't ship it?
So they're just gonna call and ask why it was canceled.
Okay. Ship via, of course, is in a lookup table. We don't use zones. Now, in the home decor industry, we've come up with another use for that. This is before we had integration to UPS. It used to have the zone so that it could automatically calculate the freight. It doesn't need to do that anymore. But in the home decor industry, a lot of times it's freight prepaid, freight collect, prepay and add. There are a lot of different functions there, and what we do is we set up a table for that, so that when you choose that, you would have a lookup here and be able to fill in, this is prepaid and add. And that would show up on the invoice, as well as reports for you to analyze down the line. Okay? Comments. This box here is comments that the customer will see. You'll see up here a little gray area right here. This is comments that are for your eyes only, and that actually comes right here, this large gray box, that actually comes directly from the customer file. Okay? If you have a comment that you put on quite frequently, you can actually create a comment code. I don't know if you noticed that when I sent you my contract, it had my whole terms and conditions. Well, we have 7 or 8 of those types of conditions. We have the ones that we make special deals for, and we have the ones that we don't. So you can actually create a set of comment fields, comments, that you can actually just hit a button and bring them in. Not many people use it, but it's a good feature. Otherwise, you just type in here. This is for bill of lading comments. So the system does generate its own bill of ladings.
Oh, wow.
And that would then put the comments there. Dock is closed between 12 and 1, etc., etc.
Right.
Shipping references for bill of lading or bill of lading number, if you have to, or any number that the trucking company would give you, a shipping reference. Okay, any questions on that screen?
No.
Okay, let's go over here to our credits and terms screen. On credits and terms, our system allows you to fill in rep, override the rep, and let's say, for instance, you did a show and a rep came in and worked the booth, but you paid for the show. Well, you didn't want to give the rep full commission on that. You wanted to give it a split from the house. You would split it here. You would just say, that instead of 15%, this order is only going to be 7.5%. And the system would automatically then recognize that. The other thing that we have is, let's say for instance you did a show in Atlanta, the California rep was working the booth, but someone from New York came in and wrote the order with him. Well, now you have to give percentage to New York, you got to give a percentage to the Atlanta rep because it's his booth, and you have to give a percentage to the California rep because he wrote the order. And you have to take part to the house because you paid for the show. That's 4 splits. If you click on here, you can split commissions up to 5 different reps. Thank you. Can't do that in your other program.
What other program?
Creating a purchase order. Let's say, for instance, you're at the High Point show and you're taking an order for an entire container and you're going to do a port-to-port drop. You would enter the sales order here and then come over to this tab and hit create purchase order, and the system would automatically create the purchase order to the vendor for you. So you don't have to re-enter it.
Nice. Sweet. Very sweet.
Thank you. Okay. Let's say, for instance, you guys got strapped for money and you need to factor your receivable. If you factor your receivable, you would set the factor up as a customer, and then you would assign this invoice to the factor. So the customer no longer owes the money. The factor owes you the money. So this would then automatically transfer the receivable to the factor so that when you get your reconciliation from the factor, you can actually go through and reconcile it just like a bank statement. Couldn't do that either. Anyways. Tracking number. This is where your UPS tracking number will automatically populate from the UPS integration. It'll also put your FedEx number in here or the DHL tracking number, but it doesn't automatically track FedEx or DHL. Only will automatically go out to the URL for UPS by clicking this button right here. It automatically scoops out into ups.com.
Wow.
I showed you that this morning. I'm not online, so I don't have my internet connected. I showed you that this morning. We tracked the shipment you did yesterday, or Friday, that was delivered.
Wow.
Yes, it was very nice. We'll show you that in a few minutes when we get to the AR module. Okay, default AR. Let's say, for instance, you wanted to separate the samples you sent to your reps. You don't want it as part of your main AR. You can create a separate general ledger account for accounts receivable, and on this order, transfer this order into that AR so that it doesn't skew your accounts receivable. Okay? Let's say you need to do a quick credit reference on this customer. If you click credit information, it'll automatically tell you what their credit limit is, the last activities you had with them, what their open orders are, open invoices, unpaid, unposted invoices, and totals. It'll also give you an aging. The other thing you can do is you can go into a customer inquiry screen right here and see anything you did with this customer. You haven't done anything with this customer. There's nothing. Okay? So that's a feature. The next thing we're going to do is go ahead and enter the order. So here's our order, and there's a couple things that we like to show. So when I come over here, I'm going to come over here to my drop-down menu, and I'm going to open up what's called my list browser. My list browser automatically shows me all of my inventory items and shows me how many I have on hand. So typically a customer will call up and say, do you have a 1134 in stock? If I click that, it comes down here, highlights it, shows me that I have it in stock, and I can go over here, grab it. I can grab it with a hand and drop it on my order and build my order this way. So that's one feature. The other feature is, as you can see, the order itself is lined up where you have the code, you have the description, you have the order, all of these columns all over the place. I typically like to be very efficient the way I enter data. So I typically, when doing order entry, like to move my order quantity over by just picking up the little column and moving it. And remember what we did when we set the user up? We check marked, remember where our columns are?
Right.
Our grid? This will remember this. So I typically like to move my price over also. So that when I go over here and I put in quantity 5, a window popped up. Well, that window shows me that I have 48 pieces on hand, 48 pieces available, 0 on sales orders, 0 on purchase orders, 0 on the water. If I had some on sales order, I could click right here and it would automatically drill in and show me all of the customers that have that item on order and how many pieces.
Oh, okay, that's nice.
Does it also show
The-
ship date on it?
Sure does.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Sure does.
So you can steal from Peter to pay Paul.
Exactly. Or let's go down here. Let's put
Computer.
a 5 here. Let's say I'm ready to enter another line item, F3, and I don't know the item numbers, but I know what they start with. If I click my little magnifier here, I can come down here and just check mark. I want one of those, I'd like one of those, I'd like one of those. And when I hit select, it'll automatically build my order. At which point I can come in here and fill in my quantities. Just by putting my 5 and my down arrow key allows me to go to the next item. You don't have anything in stock? Don't you have anything in stock? Like, what's a popular item of yours?
2722-3-S.
2272-3-S. That doesn't exist.
2277-3-S.
2722-3.
It's
Yeah,
2722?
Yeah, 2722. That's what I thought it said.
722.
-3-S.
Got it. Nope, that doesn't exist either.
Magnify it.
Are we all on product already?
2722-5-B.
Try 2522.
Now that one works.
252-3.
So when I hit select on this, now you can see I have 100 and this is a good example because I have 144 on sales order. So when I click on it, it shows me that this is on order by this customer, and then I'm supposed to ship it on 6/6, which I haven't yet. It shows me that I have 0 on hand. It shows me that I have 1,200 on an open purchase order, and the ETA date is not filled in. So we don't know when it's coming.
Okay.
July 3rd.
We should have filled that in. And the system would have showed me this right here.
Wouldn't that have been handy?
Mm-hmm. Would have been.
I know the program only for information.
That's it.
Okay, so here I see it coming in, and I have none on the water. It's on the water, isn't it?
It better be before anybody
Yeah.
Okay, let me take you outside and bitch slap you. You know?
And that's on the training.
You can bitch
That's
slap it
right.
here.
I agree. All right, so I can put it over here. So I'm going to put 3 pieces. Now, one thing I can do is if I go over here and I say, okay, well, let's say I'm going to sell this item for $5, the system is going to automatically come up and say, do I want to create item custom price? That means create a special price for this customer for this item. Notice that when I change, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say no. Notice that it's red. That indicates to me visually that I've made a change. Even if I put the same price in, I've touched that price. Now, had I set this up as their price going forward, the next order I enter for them, that price would come up in green. And by coming up in green, it indicates to me that it came from the price table. Okay?
Doesn't red also indicate there's an error though?
It's an alert.
Okay.
Not necessarily an error. It's an alert.
So it's up to us to discern which one to do.
That's
what
correct.
if you put in 0?
If I put a 0 here, it says create custom price, no. And because there's probably no cost in the system for that item, it also didn't warn you that it's below cost. Because normally it would.
Should have a thought.
That item doesn't have a cost. This,
It's not on water or anything.
No, the 6886, it's not the same item, it's a
Oh,
different
okay.
item.
Okay.
This item is, if I go down here and change it to 0, it says, warning, that's below cost.
You would say, okay,
No, I'd say cancel, cause I don't wanna change it.
yeah, but if you're giving a rep a free sample, or you're sending the customer a free sample,
You could change it to 0, yes.
yeah.
Unless you finish them.
Oh, yeah, it will.
I didn't let him last time, but, or that's what he said.
It does.
Okay.
You want, if I put this to 0, you think it won't let me finish? I'll put it to 0, just for kicks and grins. And I'm gonna accept it. And it says update price? No. Okay? So there it is at 0.
Right.
Okay, we're gonna continue. Let's say, for instance, you're requiring the customer to give you a prepayment or a deposit on this. Enter a prepayment on this order. You would go down here to deposits and credit cards, click on add, and it's automatically gonna create a prepayment, which will automatically post to the accounts receivable. So at this point, I have to tell it whether I'm getting a credit card, a check, or what. So I'm gonna say I got a check this time, because it does check for that. And I'm gonna say we got $100. And it was check number 12345. Now, if it were a credit card, I would automatically look up the credit card number here if I had it on file. If I didn't, I'd fill in the blanks and click save card. And then I would click authorize if you're on our credit card system. And it'll automatically go out and authorize the card.
Awesome.
Okay? So when I'm done with that, I'm gonna hit save, and I'm done. And then I'm finished with this order. Now, one of the nice things about this is when I go to print this, and I'm gonna print it as an order first, I'm gonna do it on the screen. It's looking for a logo, which we don't have. I'll just put something on. Okay?
With your logo.
And what I'm showing you here is the following credits or prepayment has been applied to this order, check
wow.
number so-and-so, and it tells me exactly what's been done and what the balance due is going to be.
Nice.
That's great.
Okay?
High speed.
There you go.
Speed or high tech?
Well, high speed.
All right. Any questions on order entry?
Now, the changes we made initially on the second tab, the house account, it only changes it for that order.
For this order, that's correct.
Okay.
Different file change different one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to stop this recording because we're going to do another sales order in our next session, which is a little bit different, and that's adding a new customer on the fly.
Okay.
So I'm going to stop that. And I'm going to stop the recording.